Okay, so just a reminder for the group or groups that are scheduled to do their labs during the Good Friday. So the Good Friday is going to be free of school, and there's a lab there. So I'm gonna have to solve that problem somehow. And what I'm going to do, today is Wednesday, so I'm going to show up on Friday for Mr. Hrabinsky's class. And whoever finishes early, I'm going to pick you one by one, and I will do the fusion splicing with you. All right, and hopefully we'll get everyone that way, so that problem will be solved. Okay, so this Friday I'm going to join Mr. Hrabinsky's class now. Okay, for the labs. This is just for the groups that I think there are a couple of sections that have lab during the Friday. Okay. All right. So also, this is going to be a short lesson today. Again, I always say that, but then again, over here in our YouTube playlist, let me just quickly get this thing on. Oh no, wait a sec. Here. All right, I'm gonna switch. In the content of our class, announcements. So as soon as you go to the class portal, go at the bottom here, and it says helpful links, and I made a YouTube playlist with the helpful links that I gathered over the internet, and it has to do with the tools that are involved in the network cabling business. Right? You're going to see different perspectives on things. Different people made some different videos, so you can just say it's not. You can see that there's not one set set of tools that everybody is using. Okay, so everybody is going to gather their own things, but there are some common things, and also next time we'll just go over some additional ones that are not mentioned in those videos. Now, I'm just going to say this is not part of the our whole class. However, I just gotta aim towards. That's the whole objective of things. I gotta aim towards people who are planning to pursue a career in this kind of a field. So I have to do it that way. All right. If you're not interested in that, that's fine. You just get the knowledge that you get from this course. But if you're serious about this particular field, if this is something that talks to you, that speaks to you, then by all means, please watch those videos. And as I said, there's some people already have contacted me about some possible getting some possible more information about this type of job. Okay. All right. So let's see. We have 12 people here. Cool. Well, 11 because I'm the 12th one. All right. Okay. So we're going to finish up what we have started last time. We talked about possible routes for wiring, and today we're just going to finish up that. I didn't want to rush that because when we rush things, some things might not be covered properly. All right. Yeah. And here. So today we'll talk about the cable installation or device or installation stages. Okay. And there's some terminology that is involved in that. So first thing I'm going to talk about is the rough-in stage. Okay. And rough-in, I'm going to read that. All cables brought to location at both ends, destination and home run location, destination. Okay, so let's distinguish the destination and the home run location. Destination would be where the devices are going to be mounted. Okay, so let's say, for example, there is a wall-mounted box or wall box and you're going to run wires, cables from the home run location, which would be usually a LAN room or some sort of a communications closet, right? So they home run to all the cables, home run to that. And you're going to run the cables from the home location right to the destinations all over the place, wherever they might be. And we're not going to install them yet. We're just going to bring the cables there, and we're going to coil them in the ceiling. All right, like for example, like this here. Let's say these are the data cables, and you're just going to bring it to the location, coil it up, and of course, labels are important on the cables. Labels on the cables are important. All right, so here's a destination here. It would be wall-mounted box, and there will be wall-mounted box, for example. And these two cables are just going to be brought to location and not terminated. Just bring them there and deal with them later. Okay, the reason for that is that it speeds up the job efficiency. Because when you do a certain task, you gather certain type of tools, and you get into the groove of doing certain tasks. Okay, so then you can do that. You can do this more efficiently. Also, quite often, most of the time, what you're going to deal with is that the walls or the rest of the building or the rest of the trades are not going to be ready for you to mount the devices, but the cabling has to be done. All right, so roughing in stage. Now, roughing in, it's not like for example in this case here. If this is a commercial installation, so you would have a drop ceiling, which means the ceiling tiles, and then there will be a ceiling space. So you would just leave those in the ceiling space. Okay? Now you're going to have to decide. You're going to have to make a judgment for yourself. If there's a timber type of frame, and you can see a horizontal stud, and you know that there's going to be a drywall later on put onto that, and so you're not going to leave the cable right here, because then the drywall is going to come through. It's going to be so much more difficult for you to pull the cable right to the location, to the destination. So in this case, what I would do is I would just drill the hole right through the top plate, and then maybe drill a hole through the horizontal stud, and bring the cable right to the box, and just coil then and leave it in the box, right? And maybe sometimes I've seen people, and I've done that too. You'll put the cable maybe in the plastic bag, so things are not getting damaged and things like that. And sometimes you don't need to do that. You just coil it up and leave it in the ceiling, not in the ceiling, in the destination box here. If you know that this is an empty space right here, you can just bring it here, all right, and leave it. So you have to make a judgment for yourself. But this is the rough-in installation. Now, examples of a rough-in. So this would be the destination here, just shown as a drawn picture. And over here, what we have is so it was a tiny little job I did years ago in one of the residential setting. This it's in early stages of framing, and so the whole thing is already built, but there's no drywall yet. So in this case, there would be very little wiring done comparing to some of the bigger commercial installations. Okay, someone is trying to call me. I'll have to pick up later. Okay. In this case, there's probably about 10 or 12 cables, maybe less, and I have installed just a grommet here. All right, the drywall is going to come later on, and what I did here is I just run them. The cables are coming from the basement, and I just run them through the grommet that I mounted right on the stud, and I pull the cables through, and I coil them up and put them out of the way in the plastic box. So if there's any painters or anybody else or whatever else, it just lessens the chances of the cables getting damaged. And I just left them like that, out of the way, so people don't step on them and things like that. All right. So this would be the home location. Now, of course, in the commercial setting, you would have LAN room or communications closet, and most of those LAN rooms are most of the LAN rooms have an open ceiling, so there's no drywalls there. There's no, so the LAN rooms are designed in a way that you can run the cables comfortably and change the routing or routing. Right, so you would most of the time you would just get all those bundles coiled up, and if you can hang them in the ceiling there, so they're out of the way, so other trades don't step on them and whatnot, then then that's the way to do it. All right, every location, every situation could be different, but roughing in is basically getting cables from one end to the other and left for later processing. And of course, needless to say, but I'm going to say it anyways, make sure that the labels are there, because over here, for example, all you see is a bunch of cables coming from the floor, and they're coiled up in the bundle right here. So then you need to know which cable is which, because on the other side, you're going to have something like that. Here, there's one cable is going to go here, and the other cable is going to go there. You need to keep track of the numbers, and you need to make notes of what goes where. So let's see what we have, what I have written here, just as a review of this concept. All right, so rough in, all cables brought to location. So so brought to location in the home run spot, and in the destination location. Okay, so that means here's the destination on one end and there's the destination on the other end. So all cables brought to location at both ends, destination and home run location. Okay, destination, coil the cables in the ceiling at the destination. All right, so basically, but we talked about it, sometimes you coil them in the ceiling. Basically all right, so what it is that you need to make sure that after everything is done, like the drywall is put on, maybe the walls are being painted or whatnot, then you should have no problem getting them to the box. If you foresee that there's going to be a problems after the drywall is being put on and things are painted and all that stuff, make sure that you don't paint yourself into a corner by creating a problem for yourself later on. Right now, home run, coil the cables in the ceiling space or safely on the floor. Right, so here is the rough in, and it will be an installation stage. So sometimes when you work for somebody else, or maybe you are going to run your own business, this would be a stage to get paid for. Right, so in the contract, you can just specify in the contract, after the first stage of roughing in, this part of the whole bill needs to be paid so you can continue working. Right? So this eliminates the possibilities, because truth is that some companies get bankrupt or whatnot, and you're going to wait for you're not going to wait until you do the whole job and then you get one big lump sum after completing the installation. It doesn't work that way. You can do that if you want, but you're running into a risk of losing money. Plus, some of the installations are stretched over a longer period of time. You need to have money to live on, right? So that would be one of the stages to like a milestone point that you get paid for part of the job, right? So when it comes to running your own business, there's all kinds of other things that need to be considered. This is one of those. This is the strategic kind of a way of conducting your business properly, so you don't go under. All right, and you can look at some of the links that I specified here. Now here is then the next stage will be a destination prep. So if there are two, so when it comes to wire pulling, popularly called wire pulling or wire installation, the best thing is to have a team of people, right? Very rarely you're going to run the cables all by yourself. Yes, you can do it, but here's the thing. When you're installing cables, when you're pulling cables, let's say the job of running the cables is going to take you, let's say 10 days. Right? one person. Actually, no, let's say team of 2 people. It's going to take you 10 days. So 2 of you run the cable as a team. And the job is going to take you 10 days. If you eliminate one person, do you think that the job is going to be just multiplied by 2? So if you eliminate one person, instead of 10 days, do you think it's going to take you 20 days? No, it is not. Quite often it's going to be tripled because it just takes longer for one person to run back and forth and deal with all kinds of obstacles and things like that. It takes quicker. It should be done in teams. All right. So I'm going to continue with that train of thought. So destination preparation or destination prep. After the cables are rafted in, then you come to the next stage would be the preparation. All right. So destination, all cables pulled down to the boxes, grommets, and labels transferred. All right. So you're going to go and arm yourself with different set of tools. And you're going to go and pull them to the destination, maybe terminate, but not really, but destination prep. So the destination prep could be as part of the RAF in if it needs to be. All right. If you foresee further obstacles, then you can include those 2 stages as one, so you don't create a problem for yourself later. Right? But usually in the commercial setting, you leave them in maybe above the ceiling and then pull them down to the location and transfer the labels. Make sure the labels are always kept intact. Excuse me. Right? So this would be at the destination. At the head end, this is a picture of a job that I did years ago also. That was somewhere in Windsor. So I have pulled all the cables all the way here so that I undid the loop, laid them on the floor, and then head end, all cables cut to working length and labels transferred and cables sorted. This was a relatively small job, so I did this all by myself without a helper. But it would take much quicker because just the help was not available at that time and the job had to be done. Sometimes you're going to run into this. And notice when I was explaining to you the way those racks, we can see there's an unloaded patch panel right here. Right? And this is the wall-mounted rack instead of floor-mounted rack. This job, that's all it needed. And here's a raceway that we had to mount, or I had to mount. Right? So then during the RAF-in, I had all those wires just coiled up right here and left and numbered. Now, if there's 2 people, so one person is going to go around and do the preparation, pull them down, transfer the labels, ready to be terminated. Right? And over here, the other person goes on the other end, and you undo the loop, and usually you kind of foresee how much length you're going to need. So most of the time you're going to go mount it to some convenient spot for the service loop to be there. So you can already do the service loop here, or and then run the wires maybe to the ground, right, to the ground level, just making sure that you're not going to cut yourself short with any of the wires. And you're going to transfer the numbers to some comfortable location. And you're going to sort them. This is a small job, so I could do both ends at this, not at the same time, but just by myself. But usually it takes quicker when it takes 2 people to do that. Technically, it should be 2 people doing that particular job. And then you're going to transfer the labels at the comfortable height, so you can or comfortable spot, all the labels at the same spot. And then you're going to do the termination. Right. So preparation stage or destination prep. So destination locations, all cables pulled down to the boxes, grommets or label grommets. And this would be a grommet right here, wall grommet. And labels are transferred. And at the head end, all cables cut to working length, labels transferred, and cables sorted. What do I mean by cables sorted? I mean that this is a smaller job, so you know that for example, this certain amount of cables are going to go to the top part of the rack of the patch panel, and some other ones are going to go to the bottom part of the patch panel. And sometimes you get those split racks that you're going to have a patch panel that's on the left side of the closet, and the other ones are going to go onto the right side of the closet. So just make sure that all the numbers are there, that nothing got forgotten to be pulled in. This is the time to do the checklist. Okay, so do we have all the numbers? Did some of the numbers fall off? Do you need to retrace some of the cables? All that stuff. So you just have to make sure that you're ready to be terminated, and you're going to separate those cables in the bundles. This bundle is going to be terminated on this patch panel, and the other bundle with numbers so and so are going to be terminated on the other patch panel. So this all takes time, but this is a preparation stage. Okay? What did I write here? Just the commercial installations can be easier than residential due to the different ceiling structure and easier access to the walls from either top or bottom or sides of the walls. And here's some reference here. Just click on that and watch it. Time spot. Go to the 1 hour and 18 minutes and 50 seconds, and then 2 hours and 9 minutes. Just watch a couple of those. You're going to see something that's a motion picture that's in action. Okay. All right. Is that the next slide? Yes, that's the next slide. All right. Next stage. Next stage is the termination. Okay. So after you have done the rough-in stage and you got the prep stage, now you're going to do the termination. So then again, you're going to arm yourself with different, see, all this thing involves gathering certain type of tools and positioning yourself or setting yourself up to do this particular one task in a very in an efficient way. So things can be done in a way that makes sense. So termination. You're going to terminate the wires or the devices at the destination and the head end panel. Okay, panel. So here's an example. That was the same job that I did. I just had to run wire molding here or raceway, so the cable is not exposed on the beam, because this will be something that will be seen by people who are there. So neatness is important. Okay, so we just had to drill. So now it involves some drilling holes in that I-beam. And I broke a lot of drill bits doing that. Finally I did. And don't use just the glue, because some of the raceways, they have like a double-sided sticky tape, and it's going to hold on to it for maybe 10 minutes or maybe till the evening, and then next morning you come over and the whole thing is on the floor. So that I use that sticky tape just to align things so they stay there, so nobody has to hold it. But I mounted those with screws, and I just put the top part of the raceway so the wires are hidden. And here's 1, 2, 3, 4 jacks that needed to be installed. So there are 4 wires running in that raceway, and the jack is mounted so that, and okay, see, they're also labeled. All right. So this will be that'll be the destination termination, and then you're going to terminate the head end as well. This is a picture of something else. That's not the same, not from the same job. But remember, with the current lab that we're doing is we're terminating a patch panel. So this is what terminated patch panel looks like. And of course, here when I was showing you the rack-mounted patch panel, you can see here, it's a little bit different way of terminating the patch panel. Because there are some support bars here. So there you can see that. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit. All right, now those metal bars that stick out and they go all the way across, and the cables are basically run onto that support bar, and they are velcroed, and they are terminated at the specific ports that correspond to the jacks on the other side. Right? So this is what a the home run termination looks like, right? Or head end termination. So that's the next stage. And did I include another stage here that I'm thinking of? Not yet, I didn't. There's something that I didn't include here. The next stage would be, after the whole thing is installed, would be testing and troubleshooting. You pull out the meter, the tester, the testing device, and again, the best thing is if two people are doing it. One person comes to the head end with the patch cord, plugs into the jack, and then the other person goes with the remote device, and that remote device is being plugged into the individual jacks. Press test. Now the link is going to test okay or not. Is going to pass. Now there are two types of testing devices would be qualifiers and certifiers. The one that we use in our classroom for the most part, it's a qualifier. Right? It qualifies. What does it test for? It checks for the wire map, it checks for the length, and it performs light duty signal performance test. And then if all those three are okay, then it's going to say, okay, this link qualifies as Cat5e or Cat6, for example. Right? Then you just do all of them. And then, well, if it's 100 runs that you do, so basically you have 200 terminations on 100 terminations on one end, and 100 terminations in the field. Right? So you're going to do the testing, and some of them, like per 100, maybe 3 are going to go bad. Maybe the punch wasn't on all the way. Maybe because you're doing so many of them, and sometimes your brain plays tricks on you, so you're going to make a mistake and reverse one pair, or maybe you're going to exchange 2 pairs, the colors. So if it's 100, maybe 3 of them are going to need some attention. But that's why I pay great deal of attention when we're doing the labs. Remember, I said, okay, run the twist right to the punch. Run the twist right to the punch. Do not strain those cables. All those things that I'm telling you. If you get this thing, if you take it seriously, then it's going to save you a lot of time during your first couple of installations, or maybe during the first installation that you do. Because even if I didn't tell you that, if I didn't pay great deal attention, you would mess it up. And if you have 3, 4, 500 cables to be run, if it's a 500 cables, then you have 1,000 terminations, 500 on the head end and 500 in the field. And for 500, maybe you're going to, well, sometimes you get no troubles at all when you're testing. Everything tests 100%. And sometimes you're going to have a few of those that need some attention. So a few of those is okay. What do I mean by few? If it's a 500, maybe 10, right? Okay, but if it's a 500 runs that you did, and 80 of them tests bad, then or maybe more. Sometimes it happens half of them are bad. I've seen situation once that all of them were bad. That person who did that was not a very happy camper. It wasn't me. No, I never had all of them, but it's, once in my life I've seen that. It's a real situation like that. It was not actually it was not the copper. It was fiber optic installation, right? If somebody watches me, I wave. All right, so when you do the testing, then you're going the whole thing is going to show up. And if you pay attention to what I'm telling you, there's a reason why I tell you, keep the twist right to the punch, keep the twist right to the punch. The reason is for that, and I keep saying that, and I say that, yeah, I'm going to say it again. Cat5e will forgive you some of the untwist to a certain point. When it comes to Cat6 and up, if you don't do a perfect termination, it is going to give you trouble. It might qualify as Cat6, but a lot of clients are asking for those runs to be certified, and the difference between certification and the qualification of those runs is that, well, it's about $8,000 in equipment. One piece of equipment qualifies it, just does some light duty testing on it, just making sure it works, that there's no major problems like a link failure. But the other one, the certifier, is performing way more tests, and those tests are more rigorous when it comes to crosstalk and other things, attenuation and so on. And those are really tough tests, and it has to work. If not, it's going to fail that test. What does it mean if a link fails certification? That means, yes, it's for the most part it might still work, but it might not fulfill the specifications, and usually it would be the speed. So the equipment, some of the equipment would sense that, okay, I can't transmit on that link this fast, I'm going to slow down. So you're going to have a link, but it's not going to perform as it should. So that's why, and some of the companies, some of the bigger companies, they request all the links that you've done. They request documentation on certifying. So basically what you do is you use the certification type of a tester, and all those tests are not only being performed, but you press the button and you name those, and they're being saved in the memory of that device. Then you go home and you transfer them all to your computer, and quite often you can just you can give them the PDF version of all those links, and sometimes it's a little pages, and based on that you get paid properly for doing a proper job. Right? So testing and troubleshooting is after the whole installation, and hopefully when you do the job properly, you are not going to spend too much. You won't have to spend more time for testing and troubleshooting than it is designed. Usually it would be maybe if it's a huge job, it could be a day designated for testing and troubleshooting, because you gotta kind of foresee that kind of stuff. If it's a smaller job, that maybe you're going to designate a couple hours for testing and troubleshooting. If you've done it faster, that's fine, but it's still, you calculate that into the price of the job, right? So so all that is done now, but before, and you also have to calculate that into the cost of the job when you're estimating and pricing things. Sometimes you're going to be working and you're going to feel great just doing the installations. You get the documentation and what needs to be done, and you're going to be really good at installing this. Some of you later on might start enjoying other things, like maybe project coordinating or planning things. So I'm giving it some ammunition for both. All right. So the first thing would be, you would just have to go and plan for things. What do you do? It's called survey. So sometimes you go and do a survey. What's a survey? You go to the site and you size it up, and you look for you try to gather as much technical and proper information so you can plan it properly. So sometimes you're going to look types of walls. Is there easy access from this to that? Now, if it's an addition or is a retrofit, what type of equipment is that can be kept there? And do we need to add some more equipment? Does some of the equipment or the wiring, does it need to be upgraded? As an example, I'll give you, like for example, doing the VoIP telephone systems. The VoIP telephone systems work on Cat5e minimum. For the VoIP phone to work, it has to have minimum of Cat5e cable installed. It's with some facilities, they might have still some old cabling in place, which would be Cat5, which is pretty much obsolete by now, but still, if it worked, nobody was complaining. Maybe the speed was not the concern, and everybody was happy with the way the system worked. So they were not upgrading the cabling, right? But now they're upgrading their phone system from what we call the conventional kind of a system to a VoIP system. Then you're going to have to see what kind of wires there are. Are all of them Cat5e? Do they need to be upgraded? Maybe the Cat5 wires that are already in place, maybe they will have to be pulled out, and they're going to have to be replaced with Cat5e wires minimum, or Cat6 if you want, right? But so that's a survey. And you make notes, and you make notes, and you make notes, and you make notes, and you're going to, like, for example, somebody might want to have a jack, computer jack or data jack in certain place, and maybe it's impossible to install it there, or maybe it shouldn't be installed for whatever reasons. The survey comes with experience, being able to do the survey, and sometimes you just go there and spend half an hour just doing the scouting of this place, and sometimes the survey takes a week if it's a bigger, because you have to look in every corner, because once you get all the information, and either you or somebody else is going to, based on that information, they're going to do the job planning, then the price depends on what needs to be done. And if you do the survey in a wrong place, if you give the wrong information, or maybe you miss on some information, then guess what? Once you tell the customer that you will do this for you for that price, and so the customer says, yeah, okay, I agree, you sign the contract, then you have to do this thing for that price. And you forget that maybe, oh, there's going to be $5,000 more because I didn't see that we need this type of a cable. And then you know what? It's on you, right? So, so you just walk, and over here there's two guys that I happen to know because I'm the one who was taking the picture, because the three of us did the job here in London years ago. So here you can see the steel studding, and we would just go, and according to the plan that this person is holding, we would see where the client wants some data jacks and the phone jacks and camera, security cameras and alarms. So we did, in that place, we did data jacks, all the phones, surveillance cameras, and alarm system. Right? So that would be 4 things we did. Right? The more things you know, the more you can make money on. Okay, and I'm trying to give you all. So you would just go and say, okay, there's a wall here, it's possible. There's a wall here, or we can't do that on that wall because there's an elevator going on there. For some reason we couldn't. So all that stuff has to be done in survey and information gathered. So planning before everything is done. And after you do the whole thing, what do you do? What do we do after we do the lab? We prepare the deliverables, right? This is one of the jobs that we did some time ago. Now, remember I asked you to take pictures? Take pictures, take pictures, take pictures. And I'm asking you to take certain specific types of pictures of the jobs that we do. So I'm getting you used to taking the instructions from the person who hires you, or the client, or the person who works for the client who hires some other company, that other company hires you. Sometimes the chain of command goes, in some different ways. So a lot of pictures are just not, they're not going to say that, okay, after you do the job, just take some pictures, right? No, they're going to tell you, we need a picture of this, we need a picture of that, we need a picture of that, and the other thing, and they have to be done in a certain specific way according to the instructions, right? And then now, I'm asking you to take 1 or 2 pictures per lab that we do, right? Because I don't want to tell you to take 20 pictures in certain ways, because I'll be missing the point of the whole practicing thing. But on an average medium-sized job, you probably have to take about 60 to 80 pictures of the things that need to be done, and based on that, things can be built to the client. Right? So, so I just took some snapshots of the pictures that I had to take of. It was a small job, right? We had to mount a monitor on the wall, and that's on the other side of the wall, on top of the ceiling. And I labeled all the devices that are there behind the wall, and we had to, not behind the wall, in the ceiling space above, it will be somewhere here. And then see, we had to run surface, because it was impossible to run the wire inside the wall, right? Because it was a center block in there, right? So we had to run nice and neat raceway that goes from the monitor right to the outlet that and it was just a power outlet, okay? Because the monitor had to be plugged in, and there was no electrical plug supplied to it, right? And then I had to take pictures of what's on the head end. What do we do? And I put some arrows and labels and things like that. And of course, I had to put a media player. Remember, we talked about media players. So basically, what this thing here is, there's a data cable plugged into the media player, and the media player converts all the data into video signal that is being provided to the monitor. And it was it was a 2 people 1 day job that we did. Okay, so deliverables are at the end. Now, as last, we're just going to compare some of the installations just so you can see. And I put a yay or nay to that. All right, so let's see here. This would be a data center somewhere, or a LAN room with all the wires. Now, okay, they're even sorted by different colors, and sometimes yes, you're going to get a request of installing certain colors of the cables for certain purposes. Like, for example, a very common thing is that all the voice cables need to be white, and all the data cables are going to be blue. All of them are going to be Cat5e cables, and some of them are going to be on the desk at the desk location, so the VoIP telephone is plugged into them, right? And then all the data cables that you plug in the computer or other devices, printers and whatnot, they need to be blue, and it's sometimes specified in the contract. Now, when you terminate the jack and put a faceplate on it, you don't see the colors. But when you go to the LAN room, you're going to see the colors, right? And sometimes clients request that. All that is going. But this is a very beautiful, nice masterpiece of an installation somewhere. I got this thing on the internet, and there's a reference there in the picture. Now, there's another installation that is that someone did, and believe it or not, it's a real thing somewhere. Try to troubleshoot something like that. When I tell you to pay great attention to the detail and neatness while doing cabling, this is the reason. Because, okay, you might connect the whole thing that it works, but try to find something. Maybe, let's say, somewhere in somebody's office, jack number 17 doesn't work. Try to find that jack right here. So try to avoid things like that. You'll never do things like that. Right? Right. So this will be a yay or nay. Wow, that would be a big nay. No, don't do that, kids. Don't do that at home. Don't do it anywhere. Yay or nay? Here's another LAN room installation. So there will be a home run type of it. That looks like Cat6 wiring, and it comes down from the ceiling. And as you can see, there's a Velcro nicely used, and even the Velcro is being put. It's not still going to work if you put the Velcro all over the place. But look, somebody took even the time to align the Velcro tape, so it looks nice. Why do you do this? Well, also you can see the wires are nicely sorted, nicely combed, so they are not tripping over each other. And I'm going to say there are 2 schools of doing things. According to some schools of wisdom, right? The cables should not run nice and neat like on this picture right here, because according to some people, it is going to cause some possibility of a crosstalk because the cables are running beside each other for a longer time, for a longer distance. Never had a problem with that. Right? So they're going to tell you to just basically make a bundle that the wires go over, they jump over each other and so on, to eliminate the possibility of a crosstalk. Here's what I have a problem with when it comes to that type of train of thought. When you have a wire beside each other and they are nicely bound, they rest. Okay, they are not squished as much as they would be if there are a bunch of cables and some of them are running on top of each other. So here's a pressure point, and then there's another, and there's a big bundle, so he's getting more pressure and more. So there's a huge pressure point. So you're actually deforming that wire, that cable, and then there's a chance that it's just like stepping on it, right? Make sure that nobody steps on your cables. Nobody rides over with any kind of carts or dollies or anything like that, because once you compromise the physical structure of a data cable, you're compromising the specifications, and you might run yourself into a lot of troubles. A lot of trouble when you when the cables are not up to spec after being installed. And if it's one or two, you can replace it. But if it's like 80 or 200 of them, and 80 of them are bad, then it's going to be on you. You're going to have to spend your own time and money if you didn't do it right. That's if you can't point fingers at somebody else. And usually you're not going to do that. So this is a good, and it takes time. Right? Also, when you make a nice and neat installation like this, for example, this is what gets you the next job. Because, well, quite often, if it's a company that hires the same company to do the IT work, if you do a if you do a proper job, there's a huge chance that they're going to call you back if they need to have some more work to be done. But if you do a bad job, you're going to do that once, and if it works, you're going to get paid, but they will never call you again. They call somebody else who can do it this way, right? Like that on this picture, right here. On here, okay. So yeah, that's a good yes. All right. What's the next picture here? Looks like it's a bad telephone installation or the installation gone bad. I can see this. These look like either Cron or 66 blocks. They look like Cron, maybe someone from UK, or some sort of a sketchy neighborhood, or maybe who knows. All right, but obviously you're going to see something like that. This type of jobs here, if you try to fix something just by touching it, you can, if you try to fix one thing there, just by touching it, you can break 5 other things. So don't breathe on it. So of course, this is a EA or nay. This would be a no, big no here. Okay, so yeah. So we just see, I didn't want to rush. I said it was going to be a shorter class. Again, it wasn't. Right? We got a full length on that. Okay, so this is it for today. Now I'm just going to mention that I can see some of us still have some of the labs to be submitted, and a lot of us have done the labs and have not submitted the deliverables. What's happening in the real world if you do the job and you don't submit the deliverables? You don't get paid. The client is going to go, yeah, great, right? I don't have to pay for it. What happens in the school, because we're practicing towards that, well, if you do the work and if you don't submit the lab documentation so it can be evaluated and marked, then you don't get the mark. All right, so it's all interconnected. All right, so please, if you have any outstanding work that you have done, please upload them into the submission boxes. And if you, for some reason, COVID or whatever else, you couldn't attend that lab, just join any of the sections. There is a very little chance that we're going to go overflow as far as the room capacity. Please, there's some of them. So it's some of us. Just join the other class and make up those labs. Get those marks. All right, it might make a difference, so you'll get a better mark. And sometimes, if you don't do some work, and if you don't do enough work, then it may compromise your your mark for the whole entire course. All right, so that's pretty much it for today, and I will see you next time when I see you. All right, that's it. Thank you, guys. Oh, I got one.